Hello and welcome to my channel, Words of an Angel. I am super excited to be here tonight, and I have a lovely verse that I want to share with you guys, and it's from Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. And it says, "The right time for everything. Everything on earth has its special season. There's a time to be born and a time to die. There's a time to plant and a time to pull up plants. There's a time to kill and a time to heal. There's a time to destroy and a time to build. There's a time to cry and a time to laugh. There's a time to be sad and a time to dance. There's a time to throw away stones and a time to gather them. There's a time to hug and a time to not to hug. There's a time to look for something and a time to stop looking for it. There's a time to keep things and a time to throw things away. There's a time to tear apart and a time to sew together. There's a time to be silent and a time to speak. There's a time to love and a time to hate. There's a time for war and there's a time for peace." This verse is very powerful in my life because as I've grown up, when I was younger, I always wanted to believe that I lived in a perfect world where one day we were all going to be able to agree on something and we were going to be able to live in a happy, unified world where everybody was able to agree on one thing. But as I grow up, I realize that there's so many different conflicts and so many different debates on different conflicts, especially in the news, especially in social media, and just anywhere you turn online. It's like there's this constant pull away from each other. And to read in the Bible that this was all planned out, that there's a time for all of this, and it's considered a special season, that all of these have their own timings, and that God's planned it all out, is inspirational. Because when I used to think that everything was going to be perfect and everything was eventually going to work out at the end of the day, and then it didn't, I was very let down and I was very disappointed and I was confused. Mostly I was confused, like, why is this happening? Why can't we just agree on something? Why are we all so different from each other? And it's funny to look back on that and just realize that, God's given everyone a different passion, everyone a different purpose, so that, this world isn't boring. So this world isn't, just the same old, same old. And when he says that there's a time to die, a time to kill, a time to destroy, a time to cry, all these negative things, it can be hard sometimes, because I know that many people, they question, why me? Like, why am I going through this hardship? Why am I going through this struggle? Why did God plan this out for me? Why did he set a time for me to go through this bad thing? And he did that because without the bad, we wouldn't be able to enjoy the good. And without, going through tough times, we wouldn't be able to appreciate the good ones. And so that's why with every positive that there's a negative that goes along with that. And I truly believe that that's so that we can enjoy the healing, so we can enjoy when we laugh and when we dance and when we hug and when we sew and when we love and when we speak, so that when we're going through these joyous times, we're able to actually appreciate that. And we're actually able to see the difference between being in a good time and then being in, that negative time. And the biggest thing I really want to pull from this is that everything happens for a reason. No matter what you're going through, I know that some people have it way harder than others. And I feel so passionately for those people that are going through tough times, because it's hard. It truly is hard. And I just want to let you know that there's hope. That to every bad thing, there's a good thing that can happen. That can happen after that. After everything's been destroyed, there's a time that you can build it back up. Just like in Florida, where the big hurricane hit, building teams and teams came together to help build up, or are helping currently build Florida back up. And so that's very inspirational, is to look at that and say, even though this may be really tough, and even though I hate that this is in my plan, I am going to appreciate the bad times so that I can appreciate the good ones that much more. And also, I know that a lot of people, when they go through bad times, they struggle staying positive. And, some people walk around with a chip on their shoulder, or they just don't want to talk to anybody. And I know that happens to many of us. But again, there is hope, and there is an opposite side to every bad. So just to look forward to that. Another point, and one of my last points that I want to make with this verse, is that I had a friend who told me, I was talking to him about God, and he said, Angel, I don't follow God. And I asked him, well, why? And he said, because God wouldn't agree with what I'm doing. God wouldn't agree with what my career path is going to be. And he wants to serve in the Marines, in the military. He wants to fight for our country. And that encompasses killing other people. Even if they're innocent, he still has to kill them. And immediately when he said that, this verse came to my mind, and I was like, well, there's a time for war and there's a time for peace. As much as it's crazy to think that, killing is a part of our human nature, our human interactions, as much as it's hard to believe that and accept that, it's true. And soldiers face it every single day. The constant battle of, God's not going to accept this. However, I told him, well, God created it. Everything that we're going through, everything that we have in this life, everything that happens to us or happens to others, God already had it planned. He's in charge of the good and he's in charge of the bad. And I told him, God created war, but there is going to be a time of peace. And God created that passion in you to serve your country and to fight for what you're passionate about, because that's what he has planned. And as hard as it is to grasp for even myself, that there has to be bad in this world for whatever reason, to whether that be to appreciate the good times, whether that to be to understand the complexity of God, or the complexity of just this life in general, and human cognitive thinkings. It's really, at the end of the day, we have to just accept that there is a bad and there is a good, and there's a time for it, and God's created it. So whatever you're going through, and if you are wanting to be a soldier, or you're wanting to fight, or for your country and for a cause that you believe to be true and believe to be good, because soldiers fight for a reason. They fight for the people they love, and I truly appreciate that. And God's created that. So just to understand that is a part of a plan, and that God will never deny you or not accept you if you don't deny him. And if you don't say, I don't belong to God, then he's gonna, that's the one thing that he doesn't accept is denying him, because then you just don't because then you just don't accept that he's there, or his presence, or what he's created. So never think that, what you're doing is, out of context, if it's for good, and or what you're going through is completely irrational and completely crazy, because it's happened again and again. And in to go on to verse 15, it says God makes the same things happen again and again, and for whatever reason that may be, it does happen that way. So this verse I just wanted to point out to help enlighten some hearts, to help make it more understandable that everything does happen for a reason. And I hope that I could help you tonight. And if you have any further questions, just please let me know. You can email me at wordsofanangel01@gmail.com. Or if you have any questions, you can also comment below. Thank you so much for your time. Good night.